We are in.
Hello and welcome to the podcast from Duendelvin. I'm Corbin, and this podcast will be exploring the world of Savarion. This is Jeff and Kyle, and today we're going to be talking about elves.
All right, yeah.
Yes.
Elf
What do
time.
elves look like?
Elves. So like I did with the Muscovites, I'll put up a picture so you guys can see it. But
We
All
have a
right. Hi,
puppy
Bella.
attendant today.
so the elves are an average of right about 6 feet, both the male and female. They're thin,
Not
and-
frail thin.
not frail thin, but thinner,
Wiry.
wiry.
A fat elf?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Do they get plump or are they just naturally always skinny?
They're naturally skinny.
But if they overeat, absolutely, you can have a fat elf.
Okay.
I mean, you could have a fat anything.
Exactly.
So, but I mean, so as a general rule, yeah, they're thin. One of their most dynamic features is their eyes. So they have a single color eye, like where we have, the white and then the color and then another color in the middle, like it's black, and then mine are brown and then white, right? Theirs would just be one single color.
So you could have a straight purple eye or
Yeah.
black.
Yeah.
Or green.
I don't see why not.
There's no iris, there's no pupil. They just have solid.
Is there a limitation on their eye color, or is it just a random color? So can
Do you have a limit on your imagination? Because if that's the limit of your eye color.
Being born the color of a turd.
You wouldn't want
Listen,
that, but
okay? I take offense as a turd-eyed person.
That's not all there is to your eye color.
I'm just kidding.
How tall do they
6 feet.
Yeah.
get? 6 feet?
Or a rice and a half.
Yeah.
I did say that.
We haven't talked about the rice
You're right, we haven't.
or the bun.
You're right, we haven't.
Oh my.
So we
You're
can
muted.
do that real quick.
Hi, I'm here now. I was muted that entire time.
We missed the entire intro. It's okay.
Should I try that again?
I mean, yeah, you can go ahead and re-intro us. I don't mind.
Okay. Hello,
Yeah.
and welcome to the podcast from Duendelvin. I'm Corbin, and welcome to the world of Savarion. We're going to be exploring that. Yeah.
That
It's
what?
Kyle and Jeff.
That's
and
Jeff
Bella.
over there. And yes, we have Bella.
Bella's here today. She's
Bella.
going to be licking everything.
Oh yes, I will be covered in fishy dog licks.
Yeah, we're talking about elves today, if you didn't know, and
We talked about what they look like.
what they look like. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're starting.
All right. So 6 feet tall,
6 feet.
skinny, and one color eyes.
All right, Dave, I appreciate the commentary. I understand the hate as my fellow dwarven brother over there. But there is no core conflict between our elves and their dwarven kin other than their isolation and disposition of misunderstanding between all the races. So there is a general disdain for all other races at this point in time in history, but not an outright hatred. Though the elves do get fully genocided at one point.
Well, you're talking about during the fall.
Yes, during
and
the
we're
fall.
talking about the elves as a general
whole,
rule.
yeah.
And so I think to address what Davey was talking about, there's no like the dwarves and the elves have a rivalry like you see in Lord of the Rings. That doesn't exist in our world. During the time of the fall, every race hates every race. Like that's just.
Hate's
The
kind of a
only
strong
reason the
word.
dwarves would hate the elves is because the elves are bigger than them.
But they don't even conflict with each other in the Great War. They don't fight each other at any point.
The only reason
So-
to like hate each other is the size difference.
Maybe, but
Yeah, there's no conflict even in their divine purpose. They're pretty.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
they're.
got little people syndrome.
No, they do not.
no, they do not.
Oh right, sorry, that's the halflings.
I don't know. Halflings are the most terrifying race in our entire like.
Yeah, little people syndrome.
No, they don't. Nobody has little people syndrome.
I
It's
like
not
this.
a thing in our world. Okay, we're getting lost on all the other things. Let's talk about the elves.
All right, we're dialing it back in. It's weird. I
So-
love the side. I love the side tracks. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's fun. All right.
So, we're probably going to cover this for every single one of them. Matriarchal or patriarchal?
The elves are matriarchy. And they are designed like an empire. So the leader of the elves would be the empress of the elves. And then they have a high general, a strike force commander, which is kind of like their assassin. And then you have your grove watch, which is the leader over the grove, and he would have an assistant as well. So,
Okay.
and the empress would appoint her own council members. So whoever she thinks should be in her council, she just chooses them and says, "Hey, you get to be part of my council."
It's not really a request that you can deny either. She's the empress, so if she says you're in my council, you can't be like, "Nah, dog, I'm busy." It's more like, "Oh, yes, ma'am," right away, ma'am. Like it is a different kind of power structure. What she says goes.
You had
There
a,
isn't question.
you have a whole division in their thing to it. What is the grove?
Oh,
Or do they just watch a random field or
okay.
something?
So they have this thing that was given to them by the gods. It's one of their god gifts called the Grove of the Ancients. And it is effectively they bury their dead at the base of the tree, and the tree takes the memories of the previous leadership. And so it's only the empress that gets committed to the grove, and it allows the current empress to commune with the previous empress to gain guidance. And it's more like you can't get direct memories per se, not quite the same way you can with, we'll get to the Samgatu and their ability, but they're able to impart feeling and wisdom in a way to assist in the progression. So one empress can put apart a plan that can then be carried on through future generations through that have a puppy again through that communal grove. And so it's a very sacred aspect and very important part of their structure, which is why they have an entire military devoted to defending the grove. What's what the grove watch is.
But don't think like they're communicating with the dead directly. Think like the tree remembers their memories. And so you're technically talking to the tree that has all of the memories of the previous empresses, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So,
And then the grove itself, like it's bigger than just the tree.
Yeah.
But it would be a pretty dynamic garden. So
So the question we got is, are the elven females larger than the males, since they're the dominant in the... And honestly, no, they're not like bigger. Our elves stay pretty size comparative, like even keel across. So you're not going to be able to determine a male versus a female based on size and stature.
there'll probably be other physical cues.
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, there will be other physical attributes that would stand them apart.
But they're height-wise, they're about the same as each other.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, it's pretty even keel. They're unless they are intentionally doing something to alter their physical appearance, they're going to be thinner. These are really good questions. Appreciate it, Dave. So the question is, do the solid eyes have meaning? And is it like the tree from Avatar? It's not. What they call it, Yahweh? No, not Yahweh.
Awa.
Awa, yeah.
Awa.
Awa is the one from
Yahweh's
the
from
Avatar.
our world.
Yeah,
Again,
yeah.
back to the blue people Avatar
Yeah.
movie. The Awa tree.
That,
They don't have tentacle
No,
braids
no,
that
not as
commune.
much. Well, because so in Pandora, the Awa tree communicates with the whole world. Like it's a
Interconnected. It's like
It is
it's a
the
Neuralink.
world.
yeah, like it's a complete connected like brain throughout the entire world, as I understand it. Whereas the Grove in Zedge, which is the name of the capital city for the elves, is Zedge. But that tree in that grove would be a direct one-on-one communication, as opposed to like it's just interconnected with the whole world.
and only the Empress can do this, or can anyone just go up to the tree?
I mean, do you
Well,
wanna
only
die?
the Empress would be allowed
Yeah.
to.
Anyone can. How do you do it? Because, like, do you just hug the tree or do you lay down?
I think it
Fall
would be
asleep?
different for each person. It's just kind of like how you choose to commune. But you would effectively enter into a meditative function in some way, shape, form, or fashion. You could take a nap under the grove and under the tree and receive wisdom that way. You could get physical and hug the tree if that's the way you want to do it, and have inspiration brought to you that way. But effectively, whatever it is that you do to meditate is going to allow you to commune with that tree. So it's personal. You go in there and your thing is tea time, bro. Have some tea time with the tree. Pour one out for the homies.
And then the eye
The stuffed
color.
animals there.
The eye color doesn't have any more significance than my eye color does.
Theirs is just solid.
It's solid, but there's no like, because your eye is green, you're gonna be a planter or anything
Right.
like that.
Yeah, it doesn't signify. It's not like the Muscaperd episode where their scales determine their magic affinity. The eye color doesn't really have that kind of correlation.
Doesn't their magic
Sorry,
ability
yeah.
determine their scales?
Yes, backwards. You had it right. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
They're the only ones where their
Essence
affinity
affects
with
their
magic
coloration.
has a direct physical manifestation in their bodies.
Yeah, naturally. I mean, you could, like, wear rocks as a...
Well,
or
yeah,
like-
you could wear or
can
paint
wear
or fire
fire.
or whatever. You could do that for sure. So
So, you said one of their god gifts was this tree. Do they have more than one?
Yeah, they do. They have the Greenwall. Yeah.
Oh,
The Greenwalls
Yeah.
are other god gifts. Sorry. So the Greenwall surrounds Zedge, and it's not necessarily designed for protection. It's more along the lines of it can be utilized that way, but it's a way for them to cultivate. Because we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit, which is good.
Oh.
It allows them to experiment with different biomes, effectively different natural environments. They can create small pockets of that within the Greenwall to better study and understand the ecosystem so that they can better cultivate and keep it healthy. That's necessary because that is their purpose, is to make sure that the land of Savarion is healthy. That is their divine purpose. That is what God said. This is why I built you.
It's like a
The god
huge
said. Yeah.
greenhouse wall.
Effectively, yeah.
You can grow anything in it?
They have the ability to manipulate and alter it, yes.
appropriate to the biome.
Yeah.
Appropriate to the biome.
So-
Okay.
Let's say that in the swamp, right, the Muscapert swamp, there's an area that is struggling for some reason. It's like dying off, right? You could send an emissary from the elves over there. Let's say the Muscaperts are like, hey, we don't know what's happening. Can you help us out? Because if we go back to divine purpose and everybody's, working in their divine purpose, hang on one second with that. If everybody's working in their divine purpose, everybody's doing what they should be doing, it all works really well. So in an ideal situation, as they were designed, a Muscapert would say, hey, we have an area that we need to know why it's dying off, right? And so the elves would send an emissary out, and the emissary would collect a piece of this dying area, right? Put it in a vacuum sealed jar. I don't know how they vacuum, but
I
like
mean, not that hard. You have air
a
mages.
sealed jar, right?
Magic.
And then you would go back to the green wall, and you'd go to a section of the green wall where you can do this. You pull it out and you can plant this plant, and then you can figure out what's wrong with it, how to fix it, and all that kind of stuff. And then they would cultivate this and figure out what was wrong and all of that. And then they'd say, oh, we have an answer. And then they go back to that dead area in the swamp area around Azeroth and say, this is how we fix it. And they would give the materials or the ability to the Muscaperts to continue to maintain it, but they would initiate fixing the problem and stuff like that. So that's how they would use the Greenwall effectively. Instead of sending a whole team of elves to that area to try to figure it out, you could take that area back to the Greenwall and set up at the Greenwall and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Would a cure for something sometimes just be fire?
There will be times when that will be necessary. Okay, yes, another question. It's a good one. Is this a very on world map
Accessible anywhere.
somewhere? So can we view it? Yeah.
Is it accessible?
Not yet. I'm still working on the wiki page.
It'll
We'll
be
be
on
able
the
to
We
put
started
that
the
stuff
wiki
up.
page. It's not done yet. And
They've got a
the
lot to put in
only
there.
the only maps that we have were I'm
After
gonna be real right now. I drew the map on a board and colored it, and then took a picture of it and put it on paint. And like did some colors so that there's mountains and all that kind of stuff. So pre-affirmation, we have a Pandora,
Pangea.
a Pangea world, and then post we have islands and stuff like that. So right now the images that I have are super crude, and I want to make them look better before I post them to the public. So as of right now, we do not have a map of the world. So
We will.
That's gonna
yeah,
happen.
it is being worked on.
So we're gonna release one, like, I like how the board game plays right now, and kind of get into that a little bit, where the map that you play on is going to change based on the number of players. So you can't even like take the map piece. Excuse me. Oh my goodness. We can't even take the map pieces that we have and put it together and be like, this is what the world looks like. Because no, it's designed for player function more than lore accurate map layout.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but we will.
I don't think the board game can get a lore accurate map.
No, because
No,
of the
the
hex
board game
structure.
can't.
Yeah.
Well, and because of the balance in the board game that we built into the board game, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Like the lore of it all doesn't work in the board game the same way. However,
Dude, props to Jeff.
each individual tile on the board game has an art rendition. So again, going back to Adam Barker, who did our cities and our
Terrain.
races and our terrain. So we have those, and we will be posting those. This week we're going to be highlighting the like the fire mage and the water mage and stuff like that. But we have those little squares or hexes, sorry. But we have that art for those individual areas so that you know what the artist rendition is. But yeah.
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 All right.
Well, you talked about it with the Greenwall. You want to delve more into what their divine purpose is? And, well, unless you already did, it's
It's been a kind of a crazy episode, which is good.
kind of... We're
Yeah.
going everywhere.
We're gonna branch off, but yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit because the divine purpose was to go through the elves are the caretakers of the whole world. So, like Jeff was talking about, if something is going wrong, it is the elves' jobs to figure it out, fix it, and repair that process. And the way they do that, it was very well explained about how they can use the green wall to cultivate, figure that out, effectively replicate the situation, and then heal that piece, and then take it back out.
Okay.
All right, we got another question. Who are
Elves
the
neighbors?
elves' neighbors? Okay, and they're
So I
they
don't
have
know
the
how to
halfling.
define neighbor in because they're not particularly close,
No,
right? You wouldn't have like the distance between Zedge and Shota, which is their closest. So the
the desert is
halflings
right there.
are the closest
to the
race
desert.
to them would be the forest and the desert away. So I mean, Zedge, think like there's this forest. Ian, are you on me? Okay, so think the forest area is like this big, right? And Zedge is right here. And then over here, like if we were to move over there, the desert is this big, and then like Shota is right there. Like, so neighbor, not particularly. But if you think the world has like dynamic, at this point in time, it's dynamic, almost like it was created by the gods, and they were like, this is the forest, and then this is the desert, and then this is the mountains. Like it has that feel. The bleed in is
Very small, very minimal.
yeah. There's not a lot of crossover, almost like where the Nile River is, where
Yeah.
you have the Nile River, and then you have the forest next to the Nile River, and then as soon as there's no water, it's like desert. So our world kind of has that same feel where, the desert ends and then the swampland starts, and there would be mountains throughout, but it would be the different terrain between your plains and your swamps and all of that would be really, really dynamic. And so where Zedge is, the forest that surrounds it would be considered elven land. And so the halflings wouldn't build into elven land, and the elves wouldn't build into halfling land.
Right.
So they
But
have
it,
natural borders.
Yeah, exactly. They have natural borders that line up. Like
Yeah.
that-
If you go
this is
into the
where it's-
forest, you're gonna get
Where
I'm
that?
trying
by an
to
elf.
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember. So the elves here.
we have Zedge, and then we have Shota, and then we had the Samgatu, which would be to their left neighbor. Their left neighbor was the Samgatu. Their right neighbor was the halflings, and then to the left of the Samgatu was the Muscaperts. And so Samgatu are our cat people. We'll have their showcase. They're our second young. They're
And then here, like above, like if you're north, south, east, and west,
Yeah.
the elves are like
Yeah.
center south.
Yeah.
Right, and then so east would be
East would be the Shota. East would be the halflings.
the halflings. West would be
Samgatu.
the Samgatu.
Our cats.
And then straight north was
Orc.
Dorzan, I think.
Dorzan was kind of in the middle, and then we had the orc, and then we had the human, and then the
So
goblin.
here's what we'll do. So next episode,
We'll actually have a,
we'll cover that in depth.
yeah.
The way that the world is designed, and I'll post a graphic in the next episode that has where like it'll be a 3x3
Yeah.
design and just their racial symbol. I'll use that and I'll put it in so that their racial symbol is relevant to
You
their
didn't like your
location.
map, so you're gonna make an even worse one to show them.
No, this will be a graphic that John has done actually, and I'll put it in so that you can see it. But I don't remember exactly
For this, because it was it was orc, and then there was like we had a weird triangle around the middle part of the map, and then we had six of the races were around the outside, and then 3 of them had to be closer to the center. And
But I'll get
we'll have it up.
we'll have it up.
But
for
yes.
for the next episode, we'll lead off with that. Remind us at the beginning, hey, how is the world developed? And then we'll do like their locations and stuff like that.
And then so their closest neighbors will definitely be the halflings and our cat people, the Samgatu. Are there more?
And the dwarfs.
And the dwarves,
Or the
will be dwarves will be up.
Yeah.
So those are the 3 nations that kind of closely surround Zedge and the homeland of the elves.
So, do the elves lose their god-given gifts at the fall?
Theirs are definitely decimated. Between the fall and then what we call the affirmation, which was something we can get into later when the world split apart. It definitely ruined it. We kind of talked about it with the Muscapert. Bakoa rolls up there and uses her mastery of fire magic because they're kind of getting stalemated because the elves turned the Greenwall into an actual fortification and were holding the Muscapert back. And so Bakoa gets very mad and unleashes her fury and rips a hole in that.
She kills it with fire.
She kills it with fire. She absolutely broke the green wall with massive amounts of fire. And then as far as the elves then retreat to the grove and they're trying to make their last stand there, they get ambushed by a bunch of dirtbag halflings, and it's actually kind of impressive. Yalik petrifies everything. She knows their people are lost and utilizes all of her furious earth magic because she is the Earth Mother. Taps into the grove's power as well, and just lays this massive wave of petrification that ruins halfling, elf, and then outskirts of Samgatu as well. She does her people well for their last stand.
Yalik is the main leader.
Yes, we didn't talk
During
about
the
that.
fall.
During the fall, yes.
yeah.
Yalik is Empress.
When I talk about main leader, I mean like the one that's going to be on the player card with the city during the fall.
And that'll be the one that I post up like I did the Muscapert. So Bukua was the Muscapert that I posted. And so today when the one that I showed at the start of it when we were talking about it, it will be Yalik, the Earth Mother.
Ooh, got a good question. Are the elves liked by other races? Does that say?
Okay, that's a 2-part. Hold it up.
Yeah.
So are the elves liked by the other races
For the plant helper.
or
Okay.
disliked? And does mining cause issues for them? So the first part initially, right? Yes, they are loved for that because their job is to go help fix things. And the elves don't have this in Savarion. The elves don't have this "I'm better than you" mentality, right? They're very much the servant. I'm going to go to help. This is my job. This is what I do. This is, and so the goblins would be like, hey, this area is dead. I don't know what to do. Call the elves.
Yep.
It's a very symbiotic relationship, and it's designed to be that way. Obviously, with war and strife, they hate each other because they're at war, not because they think the elves are like this pompous dirtbag, right? And so for the reason that they go and help, they're actually really liked for that. And
They're the landscapers.
Yalik,
Yes.
Yalik is one of the two racial leaders who does not intentionally want to join the war.
Yep.
Yalik wants to stay out of the war and is forced into it because of, Theranic's influence and stuff like that. But she's still protective, still wants people to be at peace.
What's the other race that doesn't want to join the war?
The orcs.
Yep.
The orcs?
Clat doesn't want
Okay. So the
Which that's
protectors and the
There's an
maintainers.
intrigue in that story. Clat doesn't want to join, but his main leader does.
Yep. His general.
But
Yeah.
I think that's next week.
Another story for another day.
Are they third?
Story for-
They
I think they're
third?
third.
I think
Third or
you're right.
fourth. But it'll be next
We're
week.
close. We're close to the orc
Yeah,
episode.
it'll be
Yeah.
next week.
Well,
So,
in
No, it won't
perspective,
be
we're
next
close
week
to all of them.
because next week is Christmas week.
you're right.
We're not doing
So
it
it'll
next
be
week.
it'll be next time we're live.
Yes, next time we're live, we'll
So
talk about
in
the next race.
2 weeks.
Yes.
Yes. So,
Little less than 2 weeks.
at any rate, so she doesn't want to join.
And the second,
and then the second part of that, does mining affect it? No, mining wouldn't affect it. In fact, when the mining happens, which the dwarves and the goblins would be your biggest miners.
Location-wise, or because that's what they do?
location-wise mostly, and then the goblins need materials, and so do the dwarves. Both of them are more material heavy because their divine purpose demands it of them.
They're builders.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
The dwarves
and they're
experiment,
engineers
tinker, and then the
Dwarves
goblins
also
are
kind
engineers.
of live in the mountains.
Both of them do, yes.
Yes.
So
And so when that happened, right, when they start digging, we send an emissary to that area, and now I have a new zone that I get to play with,
Yep.
that I get to take back to some underground dirt and rock, and I take it back to the grove, and now we can start experimenting. What can grow here? What can we do? And then the elves would go back and say, hey, goblins, check this out. Plant this stuff. You'll get more oxygen in here. You'll get more light in here. We figured out how to cultivate the swamp bioluminescent plants so that you can do that in here, so you don't have to have fire going all the time. Stuff like that. So it would be at that point it would almost be inventive and creative.
So they don't have a problem with it. Their job is to just make sure that the world stays healthy.
Yes.
And the fact that they're
So it is going to take travel time because so Sarah asked, with the distance, how do they call the elves for help? We don't have like a instant communication process, unfortunately. It still
don't have
takes
flip phones yet?
no flip phones. The dwarves were working on it, and then the war happened. No, I'm sure there was experimentation for a more direct mode of communication that the dwarves would have had access
not a
and working on. But
magic that can communicate?
no, we don't have a long distance magic.
Yes, we do.
Well, not till ritual magic becomes a thing. Who do we have?
Shadows Guild develop it. There's
But
a
they-
way to.
yeah.
So it's a medallion that you can draw in,
And
it
that's right.
reflects in another medallion.
But
so
that's-
you could connect two medallions together, open it, and like one of you writes in it, and it kind of like an Etch-a-Sketch, if anybody knows what that is. Kind of aging myself now. So, but if I drew in it,
Red Robin.
the other person or the other whoever has the other side of it would be able to read what was being written, what that I wrote.
But that's not common use item. That is a unique thing to
That the Shadows Guild
the Shadows Guild is a secret society in Savarion.
We'll have a whole thing on secret societies of Savarion.
So no, they would have to send people to travel and ask for help ahead of time, and there would be. So you don't have to go all the way to Zedge to request help. There are outskirt land, like the elves have a large land, and you would be able to go to one of their villages. But as far as like a presence in other cities and other races, the only ones to do that are Samgatu. No one else has embassies in these other lands. So you'd have to go and send the request, and you could facilitate that through the Sungatu, who could be like, hey, yeah, no, these people are looking for help with this. And I mean, then the elves could send people out to investigate.
But there wouldn't be some like instant communication thing.
Not yet.
And so it would be somebody gets on an Irbasol and rides out.
Which
or
are
someone
our horses are our Irbasols, but they're not horses.
or a Raspargo. Like we use a Raspargo like a carrier pigeon because
Yep.
they're fast birds, or that kind of thing.
The Irbasol is
So-
like an elephant horse.
An elephant horse.
Oh yes, it's an elephant. It's
Well, it was originally
long trunk.
called
A
a
horseflant.
A horse of land.
And
Yeah,
we were like,
I got to
I don't
draw
know,
that
that doesn't
one.
feel right.
we had that.
So
Yeah, so we decided to go with the Irbasol. And they're our horses. They're pack animals for them, or to some extent. They're the kind of the
they facilitate the same role that a horse does in
Yeah.
our world.
even though we
Well,
do have a different animal that is actually designed for more heavy burdening. So you'd have like this different. Oh gosh, a Jordish, which is more insectoid.
Oh,
That would be your plow animal.
one of those.
That would be like your
That's her cow.
we're gonna talk about animals and stuff like that too.
Oh, that's a good question. Are elves anti-capitalism / resource gathering? No. As long as you don't damage beyond repair a biome intentionally with the intent, like with the purpose of destroying that biome, they don't care. Like,
Aside from the muskeperts.
well, no, they don't have a problem with the muskpert either. The muskpert will, like, the swamp was there. We're going back to that a little
Swamp
bit.
repairs itself, but they're
Yes.
trying to destroy it.
No, not trying to destroy it. Their experiments are accidentally affecting. That's why they have the swamp. The swamp is the most resilient land in all of Savarion.
Oh, I thought you discussed how they chose the fire mage who could blow up more of the swamp.
No, oh man, with the Bakoa
You did make
episode.
it sound like that.
My apologies. No, the Bakoa's episode. She was just the most talented fire mage out there, and
So she happened to blow up the swamp.
she didn't blow up the swamp. She blew up the Greenwall. That's the part of the Elven land. One of the. I feel like I missed something.
Talking about when she took power.
When she took power.
When she demonstrated she was ready for it.
yeah,
The fire mages would go into
They
a
would
certain
go
area
into
of the
and
swamp and
decimate
rain
things.
destruction.
Yeah.
You're right. My
The swamp
apologies. Now,
would
But
repair
yeah,
itself.
it was intended so that they could do that, so the elves don't have a problem with that.
yeah. That's
Okay.
the
Yeah.
swamp was designed to take that burden, unless something foreign or unusual or unexpected happens, and very rarely do the muskpert actually need the elves to be like, "Hey, come fix our swamp."
We broke
It,
it.
it could still happen.
Yes, but it's very rare. So,
We broke it.
especially like if you're lighting something on fire,
like a toddler,
it's
with a
going to
toy.
repair itself like anything else that gets lit on fire. And as long as they're controlling where it happened,
Right.
it wouldn't have
Well,
you
the
know
fact
big
that it's wet
long-term
means it won't
consequences.
travel.
right.
Yeah.
'Cause there's water.
Well, and the ability to rain destruction and fire in a certain area and then control its burn path and stop it from
Huge
continuing
demonstration.
would be demonstrated.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Plus, fire is actually really good for a lot of ecosystems. It clears out dead brush, clears out room for new growth, and then the ash is very nutritious for a lot of plant life, which is why we do controlled burns here in our world, and it would correlate there as well, that it would be a beneficial thing. So, yes, there is also times when burn it with fire is actually a healthy thing. We don't condone doing that, like, on your own. Please don't go out and make fires happen because you're helping the land. Don't, no. There's a whole lot of science that goes into that that's way over my head.
If you do, we weren't involved.
but the elves wouldn't be against any
No.
government type or any specific thing. They would be against the
Intentional destruction.
intentional destruction of the world.
Yeah. So if you're going out to burn trees just 'cause, they don't like that.
No, I don't like that. But if you're using a tree for target practice for your ninja stars, they don't have a problem with that. The tree will.
Ninja stars?
Yes, we do. We have ninja stars. Shuriken. There's a whole class in the role-playing game built around generating them. Them and yeah,
Oh. You don't call them shurikens.
No.
Ninja stars.
they're not ninja stars. We call them shurikens, but yeah, they're effectively ninja stars.
So if you do it with arcane, can you be Greninja?
Yeah, you really could. If you wanted to go arcane, you could dress up like a frog and be Greninja. Absolutely. There's plenty of correlation there that you can work with.
Oh my goodness. There aren't frogs in Savarion though.
frog adjacent animals. Not all of the animals and plants in Savarion are uniquely crafted. It's been a lot of effort and process to do that.
So many episodes on the flora and fauna.
Oh gosh, we
we'll
definitely
probably cover a couple of different ones in episodes. Like we'll talk about the beasts of burden in one episode and stuff like that. But yeah, we will get into the creatures and the plant life of Savarion at some point.
which is kind of fun because we don't actually have more than one metal type. We only have one ore that converts into a metal, and then your skill determines the quality of that metal. Which is, yeah, you're not out there.
Resources.
It's all magic. So.
Yep. But yeah, so we have any more questions popping up, or if not, we can dive into. I think we're on their day to day, right?
Yeah. How do they?
I've been.
From egg to death.
They don't. They're not hatched. Our elves are not cold-blooded.
They hatch in the swamps of Azeral. And they're carried back to Zedge.
Yes, no.
You have a clutch of elves.
So their home, Zedge, we talked about this a little bit, is a treetop home. Like they live within the trees and on the canopies of the trees, and they build that kind of stuff up there. So imagine, like as a kid, you're running from gangplank to gangplank, walking along these grown. Their pathways are grown and coaxed into communion or to existence, not necessarily built straight away. So you would be walking along rooted paths or just these big trunks that were intertwined to make your pathway from one to the next.
So would it be normal for death to happen when a kid's running?
No.
And they fall?
The likelihood of a kid falling is none.
So it's
like
huge pathways, just not little ones?
With safety involved, because you're talking about canopies that are going to also catch you if you fall and carry you to safety. Like it's very conscientiously functional. And so the kids run and they play, as we talked about. They have their games, which all of them are going to be elf-centric. The elves are the heroes and everyone else is a loser.
It couldn't be any other way.
No, it's isolation kind of makes it that way. Very few individuals commingle unless they live on the outskirts of the elven lands would they have a lot of communication with other races until they're adults and are going out, or young adults even, in their training and going out to help to clean, support, check on, and fix ecosystems. But then what they choose to show prowess in, if they're martial, they have 3 different options. They can go to the general army. If they show aptitude in more of the skirmisher route or the commando route, then they would obviously join, the strike force commander. And that is probably their most successful focus, is quick hits in and out when they're actually involved in war. They don't really stew like big stand-up, drawn-out fights. They're going to hit quick.
They jab and leave.
Mm-hmm. They do the speed run. So the strike force commanders are like their elite force. They go fast. And then the Grove Watch is more for your religious individuals. Like if you wanted, like that is their sacred land, and so you are going to go Grove Watch if you have a desire to be more pious, but also a pious warrior.
Do they have like schools for learning how to interact with the others? Like, do they have etiquette schools? Which fork goes where?
Like with the different races, or just in general?
Well, yeah, because you said they're. One of you said something.
That's okay. We're both bald. So we look similar. It's shiny.
I know that.
So, if I understand the question, I'm going to kind of pick the brain
Do
a
they
little
have
bit.
an etiquette school with how to talk to, how to react with others? Because you explain them to be
No,
servants.
which is kind of their
Or
problem.
are they just normally servants?
They're definitely like, they will behave in a subservient manner to support, but not like I'm on, like they don't handle being mistreated. Like you're not going to go in there and just whip the elves because they're going to take it. They're going to stand up for themselves, but they're also going to go there like, hey, how can we help? Is there something we can do to support you? What do you need from us? Like if you're having trouble growing crops in your land.
So they'll help you, and if you mistreat them, they're probably going to decimate your family?
Well,
But, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, if you mistreat them or you take them hostage or you attack them, then you're going to have to deal with the Strike Force Commando team.
Oh,
think
is that why they
service
Uh-huh.
from a position of power,
Yep.
not servant from a position of being taken over.
Yep.
Right? And so this is the the elf that walks up to an area that's destroyed, and she chooses to say this needs to be done, and I'm going to step in and help because I'm strong enough to do so. Not because somebody says, hey, you will, or we'll destroy you, I'll
Yeah.
kill you, all that kind of stuff. It's I'm going to because I'm stepping in as the servant because I choose to. Right? So service is from a position of strength, not a position of weakness.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good way.
There'd obviously be clashes
Yes.
because everyone thinks they're the hero and everyone else is like, ha ha ha, you're dumb.
So there's a fun story that kind of happens that I'm excited to actually put on paper. We talked about this a little bit. The halflings, part of their God-given gift is an alcohol berry, and it allows it to maintain forever. And the halflings are immune. For a long time, people would come to the halflings and have a banquet with them. And we talked a little bit about how these races were getting drunk because they didn't understand it, and so they're behaving inappropriate and kind of ridiculous, and that kind of builds this idea that the halflings, in the halflings' mind, especially with Serona at the head, that's like, yo, these people are all fools. They come over here, they eat our berries, they drink our juice, and they act ridiculous, and they have no manners. They're uncouth. Nope, they don't deserve to
stupid.
be anymore. And that's what kind of spurs them in. It's because they don't understand why people are acting goofy around them. So there's etiquette would have been a helpful thing, but it didn't happen. It just wasn't a thing. Like the elves were the elves, the orcs are the orcs, the halflings are the halflings.
They did their own thing.
So when you got the leader of the elves rolling up at this banquet trying to show honor and respect to the halflings and then gets drunk and says, oh my gosh, you're just so little, I want to pick you up and play with you like a doll, it doesn't really go over very well. Because halflings have pride. They're proud of them. They should be. They're a very warrior, proud race. Don't insult them.
Picked up.
Don't pick.
That insults them.
No uppies. Halflings don't need
Don't tell
uppies.
Legolas. Throw me.
Yeah. You don't toss no dwarves either. Toss me. Not happening. But yeah, so etiquette would have been helpful, possibly in staving things off. But no, most of their training in school would have been going and exploring the Greenwall. And they're young, they're learning things again, like day to day would be farming, would be how to talk to, like, how to coax the growth out of trees or how to cultivate their own magical skills, because not everyone's going to do it. Not all elves are born with the ability to weave trees into the positions they want. Some of them are going to be more have the affinity to fire, earth. Some of them won't have anything and go off to the arcane schools. That's an option. And that's just, it is. So once they come of age and their talents are displayed, they would go off to learn. But their core focus has always been, I will fulfill my divine purpose.
Is there any other alcohol besides the alcohol berry? Like,
Not yet.
not yet?
Eventually,
Or are you gonna
we
keep
have.
it as no so that the halflings just think everyone else is stupid.
Well, absolutely. Because it makes sense for them, because alcohol is a preservative and a cleanser, and that's why the berry lives indefinitely, and the juice they make from it.
So would this be like a high sought after world commodity?
No, because it would make everyone else feel goofy. So only the halflings would keep it and enjoy it, and everyone else would be like, I don't like it.
Right.
Okay, but we as humans like it because it makes us feel goofy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't be till after the affirmation that another type of alcohol was even
Conceived.
cultivated.
Once the different races started to mingle, which is what happens when we have after the affirmation, and then the Age of Empires begins, and that's when all the races were forced to live together.
Expansion.
Age of Expansion. I said Age of Empires.
Age
Oh
of
my
Empires
gosh,
is a
game.
Is a
Yes,
game.
the Age of Expansion. I apologize. The Age of Expansion happens, and the empires form. That's when you have races commingling, and things get really progressive, awesome, and fun because new ideas are coming together, new intentions, new functions, and so you're no longer isolated with one train of thought.
I'm guessing the Minotaurs are the ones who would discover alcohol.
They would definitely have a lot of fun with the Shotoberry. Like, we ain't even played. They would start to figure out
Yeah,
how
you
else
need
can we do
alcohol
this.
in your game. That's where you start off every campaign.
In the tavern.
in the tavern.
I know, right? Every role-playing game, for some reason, starts off in a tavern.
Well, it actually makes
everyone
sense
just-
historically.
And somebody
happens
goes,
there.
we should go on an adventure.
Yeah, because they're drunk. Everyone makes stupid decisions when they're drunk.
That's why the Adventurers Guild is also a tavern. Almost every Adventurers Guild is attached to a tavern because you're going to get drunk and take a mission that you obviously ought not to.
And
Which I
then you
think is
might
actually
come back.
more proof that drinking is not good for you.
No, it makes you feel silly.
It
Well,
makes you
I'm-
feel silly.
The whole culture of hold my beer, it kind of speaks for
Right.
itself.
Yeah, I know, right?
But yeah, no, eventually, like I said, they'll come out to it, but the day-to-day is pretty chill. And they don't ever view themselves as lesser than anybody, even though they serve the races. And that's a big deal.
Yeah.
They also talk about the Empress is their everything. What she says goes. You don't question that. So if she's like walking through the city, people are like, "Oh, it's the Empress!" It's a big deal.
So they treat her like
Almost like
president of China, whatever.
we're not gonna go into politics like
I'm
that.
not going
Yeah.
politics, but they treat him a certain way.
Like
Would
a
it
god
be
emperor.
similar to
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, kind of like a god emperor.
I wasn't
Yes.
trying to go into politics.
No, I
They-
just
there's just a really specific way. they
That's
treat
fair.
him.
That's that. I don't have a whole lot to speak on that regard. I have not been to China, so I can't say for certain if that is the behavior.
But God Emperor is a
God-
good.
yeah,
Or Goddess Emperor.
God, yeah.
Okay,
Empress.
like Taylor Swift or something.
I
No?
would say
That's more
a lot
worship.
more like Caesar
Yeah.
in Rome.
Oh, so he is like revered.
Yes,
Yes.
revered and respected and honored, and it's a really big deal to see the Empress.
But
it's-
because part of their, like, that's the way the culture views the Empress, but because they have a servant mindset.
hang on, let me get my mind hood real quick.
Let me get my mind.
We're gonna get a hoodie with that on. It's got to happen
because their
now.
mindset is service. The Empress wouldn't see herself, wouldn't march around and be like, "I'm better than everybody else." She would have a very like servanthood mentality. So she would be revered the way that the Romans revered Caesar, but she would see herself as somebody who, like, I mean, literally walks around and is like, "Oh, let me help you with this," and is like engaged with her community, helping them. Because she would, in her own right, absolutely be a very
humble.
humble individual, but talented in her specific right. And like Yalik's a good example, but all the empresses before and then the one after, before the affirmation, would all have their own affinity and all magical capability that would be dynamic. Yalik's was so powerful that she was capable of petrifying every soldier from the halfling army, whatever was left over of the Muscapert still hanging out, and the elven army, and the grove. She petrified by herself.
Yep.
Like, she was that powerful. And she was not, like, I wouldn't say she was necessarily the most powerful empress that ever lived. And so that kind of power set was natural to the empress.
Is there a specific way they choose the empress, or is it just like
Well, in
ticket
Yalik's
draw?
case, it was definitely little kibitzing, I think is the right word, but from the Horakai. The Horakai kind of propped her as the choice for reasons that she was younger and a little less confident. But no, it's not like a bloodline. It is literally who is the most efficient in their task.
But it wouldn't be a vote.
No, it wouldn't be a
like,
vote.
if I were in charge, right, and I was, doing my thing and I was getting along in years, or when I became in charge, I would say, this is my successor. And you choose your successor, and then you could change your successor if, it needed to be, but you would have somebody in place ready to assume that role. And you would choose that. Like, I would say, Corbin, you're my next in line. So if I die, you take over. And that's like set in stone. The day I take office, I give whoever's my next in line that position. And so the Horakai cultivated Yalik being chosen as the next in line.
Yep.
okay?
So,
Yeah.
but not bloodline, but I mean, it could be.
You very well could be, this is my child.
But
I've raised you to be the
Right.
next one, and you will be.
But it wouldn't be because you were my child, you get to be.
Well, yeah, more
But
like. Well, you build fences time to time, and
you're good
I'd
at
say
it. Because
I'm
good at it.
probably one of your most proficient fence builders that you've
Right,
taught.
so
So,
I've-
I would
right.
take over. But if someone else was better than me, you'd choose them.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
it's just whoever builds the fence the best.
Right. So it's not bloodline for the sake of bloodline, but logically, I mean, you could very easily choose bloodline because you have cultivated them to be your next in line, your successor.
Well, would that cause
So-
problems? Because from that standpoint of power, it would be very easily corruptible.
But that would require entitlement and expectation that I'm going to get it because I am the next in line. And if that starts to showcase, then that person no longer is worthy to hold it. And if they do have a grudge against that, then maybe the Grove with the commandos might make that person disappear if they can't handle it.
Oh,
So-
so they just have a secret assassination team to get rid of
effectively,
them
if it was
who think
necessary.
themselves more.
Yep. So when that divine purpose comes corrupted, that's a thing that was actually because of Vagog's influence. That divine purpose became goofy, and with corruption inserted into the world, people started to behave in a goofy manner. Plus, for a very long time, they lived with gods, being taught by gods how they're supposed to live, and then all of a sudden, that was taken from them or was removed from them. So then they had to start figuring things out for themselves, and with corruption being influenced in the world, people got weird.
Which next week we're talking about the creation story. So on Tuesday, we won't be live on Tuesday and Thursday next week, but we will launch creation part 1 on Tuesday and then creation part 2 on Thursday. So next week you'll get to hear about the creation story. So we'll talk more in depth about Vagog during that point. So
Yes.
Dirtbag.
Dirtbag.
that's Ayala.
Ayala's gonna have his own dirtbagging episode.
So
Chronicles of Dirtbag.
Dirtbaggetry. And then we have the Insane Minotaur to talk about, which would be a lot of fun. But
that'll be during the fall.
That be during the
Episode.
fall or the Minotaur episode?
I think we should talk about that at the fall episode because it's super relevant to the fallen destruction.
yep.
We can talk about him lightly on the Minotaur.
Oh yeah, and we
we were
mentioned
Because
him.
he
talking about
is
him
a
lightly right now.
Minotaur.
Yes, he is.
We can also talk
So-
about him right now.
Fair.
But it looks like we're getting close on time.
We have a
I would
question
like
coming
to
in, too.
cover what Zedge looks like. So we cover that real quick, and then we do have a
Alrighty.
question.
It was
A long question.
Giant.
Okay. Before we go too far, what are the elves' base details? Lifespan, overall healthy, fertility. Okay, that sounds kind of cool. I can touch on the speech, right?
Your hand is covering the bottom of
Yeah.
it. How much do they need to eat? Okay. Will you hold it up and we'll just cover one
Yeah.
at a time?
I want to start on speech because so we can talk about that kind of sets everything.
Speech?
Yeah, like the language.
Have
I see speech. Yep.
yeah,
No?
speech,
I see
strength.
speed.
Speed. Okay.
Speed,
That's
okay.
a
How fast are
that's
they?
a D. Okay.
They're fast.
But this is kind of fun to throw out there. All the Savarion speak the same language. Like, doesn't matter what race you are, they don't have a unique language. They may have unique slang for their
You need
race and
slang
region.
and like pronunciations,
But-
like how you have South
You have
and New York.
You have Southern accents. You have Northern accents. You have different accents. Yeah, but they all speak one language. There's also common, or so common is the language, and then celestial would be the spoken language of the gods, which has been there but kind of obscured if you're not seeking it out and learning it intentionally. You've got no reason.
So it's only two languages.
Yes,
in the
Ayala would
entire-
know it. Dirtbag.
Okay, so lifespan, 500 years ish.
Yeah.
is about their lifespan. So they are third in
longest lived.
age.
Yeah.
As far as who lives the longest of the races, but 500 ish is about their lifespan.
Right? And they're the 6 feet average.
They're a little faster than everyone else.
They
It's
are.
7 speed.
They're
Sorry, 6 feet like height, but then their speed is they are much faster
their bonus
naturally.
in the board game is movement.
Yes.
Is a +2 movement. So 5 is standard movement. They get a +2 to their movement. So they are, what is that, like 35% faster
Yeah.
than the other races. So they're pretty quick.
They
You
are
know,
they are
if-
fast on their feet. That's why the strike force is so effective because they're fast in and fast out.
They're super fast.
Yep. So they can get deep. They can get further into enemy lines faster.
Right.
In and out.
Overall health.
They're average. They're not more hardy than any other races. The one that would fit that bill is our Minotaur. Through
Minotaurs
years
are-
and years of drug abuse and their size, they are way hardier than the other races physically, like healthy wise. I know on there was also their. Don't lick my mic, pup.
Ian, what was the other part of that? I want to make sure we cover that.
Metabolism is on there as well. Like how much do they eat?
How much do they eat,
Oh.
sleep, and fertility?
There's no like they don't. None of our races have a problem with having babies.
Are they
Susceptible to sickness. They're not more frail than
Yeah.
the other race either.
Well, and with a world of magic and light mages, I mean, sickness
isn't a problem.
Sickness isn't quite as dynamic as it is in our world because
Unless it's a magical affliction.
Right, your light mage could probably make you feel better.
Yep.
But overall health, I would say they're middle of the pack.
Yeah.
They're not frail, but they're not hardy
No.
either.
Would you say
They're
the
not-
frail races? Goblins?
No, goblins are goblins can be so dynamic as far as like in the role playing game. They just get free trait points to place more than everybody else.
So what
I don't
would
know
be
that
the more
anybody's
frail?
frail.
No.
I guess from what I'm thinking, the person who would be able to take the least amount of hits would probably be a Samgatu, which they make up for with their other attributes.
I think the Muscapert would be a little more frail, and the humans are a little more frail.
So there are some races that have more mental aspects rather than physical aspects, and we have them kind of divided that way. So you have your mental traits and your physical traits, and yes, our humans and our Muscapert are least physically apt.
When you first started talking about Muscaperts before we had a picture, I always viewed them as these like bones with skin hanging off of them, wizard casters.
Oh no,
Not particularly.
no.
That's how I
So-
viewed them for a
That's
while.
that's interesting though. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
but I would say, yeah, elves are kind of middle of the road with, their strength and all of that kind of stuff. They're definitely faster than everybody
Yes.
else.
Well, and depending on what you do, you can always change how much you can
But
take.
you're
or
talking about the
whatnot.
role-playing game.
Well, even in the game too, because you have points. You can put
That
into
you can
stuff.
put into your health and your armor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
depending on which piece, character, whatever it is.
But from the onset, like the base qualities of, I think is what we're
Yeah.
asking. Obviously, you can train yourself to be more, or you can neglect yourself and be less. But you can definitely train. But as a general rule of thumb, as far as their strength and their physical capabilities outside of their speed, I would say they're kind of middle of the road. They're not frail, but they're not hardy either.
And all of our races sleep. None of our races do the meditation. So like in other role-playing games, elves only have to meditate for 4 hours, and that's kind of what makes them more efficient spellcasters. I don't know if that's still a thing.
Would
I haven't checked in
Broken
5e.
be considered a race?
What?
No.
No, they're a.
They don't need to sleep. Correct?
That's kind of like a template. They don't. When they're
They don't need to, but they can.
they can't. If they're trying to hide themselves and appear human, they definitely sleep. But sleep.
But our 9
guess mortal.
races
All sleep,
They all
yeah.
sleep a normal amount.
And we have a 25-hour cycle of time for them instead of 24, and so they still get their 8 hours. And then food, I mean, they'd eat like normal, so you could have a fat elf if you wanted to. They're gonna
Well, they
indulge.
probably eat more plants, considering
I mean,
what
they also
they
hunt.
have.
They have the
They
forest.
would have a normal diet.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know, but like more plant heavy because it's so on hand.
that's fair. Like it wouldn't be too. It's kind of like the Minotaur in the same way. Would honestly have a lot more plants on hand than anything else. But what they do with their plants is goofy.
Minotaurs smoke their plants.
Some of them, yes.
I think the elves are fairly standard.
Yeah.
As far
Omnivorous.
as they're eating, they're omnivores. They don't eat more plants or more animals. They're pretty standard. 3 meals a day. So
Yeah. And then we can kind of. That's a great question. Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it. And Sarah, the question askers here. It's awesome.
we should. We're gonna write that one down on the board to just cover so that we can always cover that question because that's a good one.
Oh, yeah.
The food.
The
Well,
food
yeah.
and what they are and all that kind of stuff because it helps with that. So, but we are gonna have to wrap it up. We're
Yeah.
out of time, unfortunately.
So we'll have a post up maybe a picture up of Zedge, and you can kind of get a visual representation of how the
Yeah, at
city
the beginning of the episode.
looks.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. No, I'll
Or
post
I guess
it here.
when we
But think
talk about it.
real quick. In a 10-second, like the trees are like redwoods from California size trees,
Massive.
huge trees,
They're not
and
red.
they can
No, they're
build
not
into
red.
them. They cut into them to create their homes instead of cutting them down to make homes. They build into them to make their homes. So their staircase goes up inside, and the the branches touch each other, and they create these walkways
Or
and stuff like that. So it's gonna
huge
be
trees.
huge trees.
Massive.
So
And the next episode live won't be next week, but the week after. What date is that?
Yep.
I'd have to look on my phone.
Ian, do you know what date that is? Can you look up 2 weeks from now?
That's gonna be
'Cause
January.
It is the 19th now.
No, it'll be. Will it be?
I'm checking.
The 31st.
Oh, heck yeah.
Going live on the 31st.
We're doing a New Year's Eve episode.
New Year's Eve.
Oh, great.
And then the 2nd. So the 31st. So December 31st, we'll go live again, and we'll be in the 3rd.
On the 3rd, sorry. Yeah.
We'll be here on the 31st, going live for our New Year's episode, 1:00. But next week,
We'll be
we will
releasing
post on
episodes.
Tuesday and Thursday. I'll post the creation videos next week. So
Heck yeah.
yeah,
All right.
stay
guys.
tuned. We're
Thanks so much for
posting
tuning
stuff
in.
constantly. Invite your friends. We need more
Invite your
questions.
like,
These questions
share,
are
subscribe.
great. Yes, hit the like, share, subscribe, shenanigans, all that good stuff.
All right.
Love you guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye.
Catch you later.